All right, click the links to join the channel here over at Subscribestar. I have a mailbox, which many of you are making use of. Thank you very much if you want to send me comics or notes or whatever. Thanks to Vermont, LG, Vegan, and the anonymous folks who are sending stuff anonymously for some reason. I'm not quite sure. We're just saying we don't trust you. Okay, that's fine. So first of all, ignore. Oh, let's focus on her two most important assets, because I will say in the show's credit that they are playing up her jug ability, and that's nice. That is nice and refreshing to see that they're giving the audience a little something to focus on, which I love. So first of all, ignore what women think is beautiful in other women. They have no idea. Maybe older women are more honest. They're completely clueless. The younger women, because they're just so brainwashed by SJWism that they're judging themselves too harshly, usually, and they're completely incapable of judging women because they're just brainwashed by Cosmo and BuzzFeed, and they're like, no, we're re-examining ideals of beauty, but it's all like obese women in bikinis trying to convince other obese women or other skinny women to get obese, so I guess they don't feel so alone. Like, isn't that a health issue? Why would you that really feels like there's a darker, deeper core underneath that. Men are the only people who can accurately judge both men and women. Woke women will say, "Oh, some fatty is pretty," and because they're told to say that, and after a while, I don't know if they start believing it. I suspect I kind of doubt it. And then if you say that, "Oh, she looks like that fatty," she'll start crying. The eyes will start welling up. So you probably don't want to do that. If a female casting director thinks a woman is pretty, you look. Was it Liza? You look just like her. You remind me of her. She's like 400 pounds or something. If a female casting director thinks a woman is pretty, anything is like a sphere, objectively. I mean, there are objective standards to beauty. Below a certain body fat percentage and symmetry, healthy ability to pass on genes. Like there are, it's just the way they have no problem at looking for dudes to have six packs, and then you look at these BuzzFeed chicks who are all over 200 pounds. I'm seeing a little hypocrisy here. Or in the Barbie movie, they had some huge woman front and center. She was like three women put together, and I'm looking for the Ken who was that size also. He wasn't front and center. The Kens, almost all of them look like Ryan Gosling, who must have been cutting carbs for a year to get down to that body fat percentage. So if a female casting director thinks another woman is pretty, it's irrelevant because they're selling the character to men, not women. So it really doesn't matter. And women just blow smoke up each other's butts about that kind of stuff, where men are just brutally honest. But men also don't, they just don't even go in that direction of complimenting each other. It's just not a thing. Anyway, so, hey bro, you look like you need to lose a couple of pounds. You've been packing on the weight lately. Yeah, I gotta cut those carbs. Anyway, so this useful idiot who helped ruin The Witcher, which, keep in mind, could have been a big success if they just stuck to the origin story and stopped with the cultural bullshit propaganda. But that's not why these people get involved in making films. The whole point is to make brainwashing material. No, you don't understand. The Polish characters were actually always African. They're better that way. Every European story, they will replace the actual European people. It's a digital genocide to prepare people to dehumanize them. They're not real people. They never actually existed. So in this interview, this globalist puppet has zero interest in telling the story as written. Her whole purpose is to be transformative through a commie lens. She wants to change the way people see women instead of just telling the story as the creator intended. Think of the insane levels of hubris it takes to think that you know better than the literal creator of stories. You think narcissistic people, and then you start reading these Hollywood interviews and you realize, they're on another level. They're the piece of poop that they think the galaxy revolves around. They don't know better than the original creator of the. Oh no, we know better than Tolkien. That's why we did Rings of Power. And you look at the people who did Rings of Power, like, so where's your great story? We never wrote any. We're just we have degrees in theater or whatever. If they were able to create their own stories, they would just write their own original stories. They can't. SJWs cannot create because when they try, it comes across as their inner thoughts. It's just preachy, whiny propaganda. In Barbie, it worked because you had a pretty, skinny, blonde woman front and center. And credit to Ryan Gosling. Honestly, I was thinking if you take that 2-hour movie and you edit the scenes where Barbie is talking, where she's in the real world and she's talking to the mom and daughter, and there's this like female back and forth type of stuff. If you edit out a half hour of that female stuff, cut that film down, and you focus on Ken, you'd have a pretty solid comedy. The writer described the character in The Witcher as fair and beautiful, and presumably he's Polish, and the story is coming from European influence, like all these European stories that they decide to butcher. They don't butcher non-European stories because that wouldn't be cultural Bolshevism. But this director decided to race swap her and ended up making her commonplace and dull. If you're talking about, European women in general are already the most rare women on earth. There are billions of women with dark hair, eyes, and skin. That's not rare at all. A beautiful Polish woman was needed for this role. Oh, and how well is the show doing? Not so good. It's actually tanking. Henry Cavill left because of this woke interpretation, and the audience packed up and left with them. I think the show is screwed. The new guy coming in, I already forget his name. I want to say Chris Helmsworth, but I don't think it's him. It's somebody like that. It's a new guy. Maybe they can turn the show around, but as it is right now, you're going to have to rebuild the audience from the ground up. And it's definitely possible. It's just, why would you do that? If I was them and I heard Henry Cavill's complaints and he really knew the source material, I would go, okay, we're just going to, if you leave, the show is probably doomed. So we're going to put you in charge of the writers, make you executive producer. You direct the writers, tell them what you want, you want the show to go, and if it fails, it's on him, and if it succeeds, it's on him. But if he leaves, it's probably going to fail. You have, it's just kind of game theory 101. You're better off taking that risk, but they're willing to nuke a show so they can push propaganda. That's what all these companies are doing. Disney, Bob Iger did an interview. I guess maybe I'll do it later tonight, where if you read between the lines of the interview, he's talking about selling subsidiary companies instead of just like they're selling these companies so they can focus on the Disney parks and the movies so they can keep pushing propaganda. But it's like Disney's displaying signs of weakness, and you go, why don't you just turn the movies around, stop making these woke movies, and stop getting involved in, like the Florida politics type of things. And that never comes up. Like, even though the shareholders themselves, I guess it's a separate video, but the shareholders themselves like want Disney to turn around and stop making these type of movies, BLT in the background type of movies. And I mean, there's a whole slew. There's like a dozen movies that came out from Disney lately that underperform. And the umbrella term is just calling them woke. I could go into it. But anyway, so in the interview, she says, in the book, she's described as the most beautiful woman in the world. That was a few years ago, and I like to think that things have changed. But when you think about people's unconscious bias, especially in the fantasy world, it felt like these worlds were predominantly white. And as an aside, let me say, because the source material is from European people, you're taking the source from, it's like, are you an effing idiot? The things they say, they never get challenged. So they just say stupider and dumber and more dumber things. And nobody ever calls them on it because it would probably shock them if they got called on it. And then you'd probably just never get another interview. So if you're doing these interviews, you just let them run on. They just say whatever the hell they want. And you really can't do anything about it. Otherwise, your access dries up as you as an individual reporter. And if you're working for a company, you'd be in trouble. If you're, Variety doing the interview, like you just know that you can't push back in any capacity, and if you accidentally do, you just edit it out of the interview so you wouldn't upset them. Anyway, so she continues, and I remember saying I felt like we needed to challenge what people think of as the standards of beauty, and having a woman of colors in this role like dark hair, eyes, and skin. That's like European women are the real women of color. Anyway, so she says does incredibly powerful things to the people watching. Her jugs are doing incredibly powerful. Let's get another one. There's another jug image in here. Oh, there you go. Hey, credit to you for that. That is a great costume, and she's got a rockin' body. Where's it going with this? Jugs are very, very distracting. So the thing is, why would you feel that you're the person in the role to impose your worldview on us? And was this Amazon, or Netflix or something? Well, I mean, because they hired her for that. Like it's not her doing this. It's somebody put her in that position to like take this show, this original story that millions of people are familiar with, the original story, and instead of being curative and just presenting the story like Peter Jackson did with the Lord of the Rings 20 years ago, we want you to be transformative and insert all this Alinsky, Frankfurt School, Bolshevik kind of cancer to give people what they don't want. So to change their perceptions and push many things. You don't need to change our perceptions on beautiful women. We want the source material. In our opinion, this is not subconscious. I'm consciously saying this. European women are the most beautiful because the audience is mostly European people, whether they live in Europe or they live in America. It came from a Polish guy. He had that in mind when he created this story. And I bet you 90% of the audience will consciously tell you, yeah, European women are the most beautiful. Give me some Polish model for sure. Yeah, we're consciously, that's not unconscious. We're consciously saying that. We go, oh, well, why do you feel that way? Because those are our people. That's our tribe. It's like if you were some other tribe, you would think that group was. If you're Indian, you're gonna think the Indians are the most beautiful. It's like that's not to say that she's not objectively beautiful to her own people, but it's like you're always gonna. I mean, you're always going to want to see your own group, and it's not even. It is that's a part of it, but you also want to see the story as written, and like you're not going to get that ever again. You're not going to ever get that again. But that is a great costume. I mean, they're giving you something with the costume because they're putting her boobs. That's like a full C cup or something. They're putting her boobs right out there, and that is just a fantastic freaking costume. And she looks great. She looks like $1 million. Don't get me wrong. Where is it going? That is a great costume, though. I tell you. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for everyone using the mailbox and the subscribe star, and I'll see you guys all next episode.